So this is where I think optimizing the offer and getting really clear is so crucial because it will inform all of the work streams that you need, and it will inform exactly who you need to hire.
Hi, and welcome to the Conscious Marketer Podcast. This is Richard here and joined by Kylie. Hi, Kylie.
Hi.
And we have a special guest today, Jessica Miller. Hi, Jessica.
Hello.
Jessica is the CEO of Jessica Miller Coaching. She is a growth strategist and helps ambitious entrepreneurs streamline and grow their business by optimizing their offers. And offers is something that we're especially passionate about here at Conscious Marketer. It's definitely one of the cores. A little bit more about Jessica. After working with dozens of businesses, she's kind of figured out the difference between those that struggle and those that thrive. And the key component is the hell yes offer. So we're going to talk about that. She's been featured on all kinds of summits. She's talked at the Maine Women's Conference. I'm up here in Maine, so that's kind of interesting, and several others, and appeared on all kinds of podcasts. Why don't we just dive right in, Jessica? And normally we ask a little bit of the backstory. Can you share a little bit about how you got into what you're doing? And I know you had a pretty significant life-changing event happen, and maybe you could share a little bit about that and how that changed your perspective on how you viewed the world.
Yeah, sure. Happy to share. So hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be on the podcast with all of you today. I started my career, we'll just say decades ago, in corporate America, where I did all the things that I hoped I'd do in corporate, led teams. I worked on an international company, and it was amazing. And I was doing incredible things, but I knew I was made for something more. And as Richard alluded to, I had a very serious health crisis where I had what they call a spontaneous coronary artery dissection, which is essentially a heart attack after I had my second child. And like many life-threatening events, it really does change your perspective about where you're going and what you're doing in your life. And as a very mission-driven person and a person who wants to have a big impact in helping people, I realized this was my calling, even though it kind of had been sort of percolating in the background as I was building an entrepreneurial venture on the side. You know, when something like that happens, it really just kind of locks all that stuff into focus. And so I used it as a sign that it was my turn to really come out of corporate and move into the entrepreneurial world and go after my dreams and the impact that I wanted to have. And so I started my business at that time, working with female entrepreneurs, focused mainly on mindset and helping them grow their business. And it was amazing. I worked with so many capable, driven, ambitious women who wanted to help other people and have a huge impact in the world as well. As I was doing that, what I started to see, though, was that most of these women were not making any money. It was almost like an epidemic. And having had my MBA and been in corporate, I started to realize that there were, tactics and formulas and ways to look at businesses that a lot of people just didn't have the experience to understand. And so I really pivoted my business to helping entrepreneurs put in those kind of brass tacks and those pieces of their business that they needed, that foundation to help them grow, marry it with all of the mindset work, all of that intangible things that make us who we are and passionate and really connect us with our clients, and do that through all the different mediums in our business. And then kind of underpin it with being able to look at the data in just enough of a way to know if what you're doing, both internally and externally, is actually working. Serendipitously, it was right as the pandemic blew everything out of the water. And so it became that time when people really needed a trusted partner. And so my business really took off. And I had the beautiful opportunity to work with people who were helping really the world through that crazy time. But businesses grew really quickly for them because they were able to build this foundation, identify their best opportunities, and then marry it with the energy that they're putting out there into the world and all that intention. And so that grew and took off for the last couple of years. And then I would say in about the last 12 months, I started to work with more established entrepreneurs to find their best opportunities in their business and to do, I think, the things that we hear all the time, where we want to create more by doing less. And it sounds so cliche, But the truth is, when you can dial in your energy and your data in your business to find out where those two things intersect, there are often things in your business that are going to take you off of that plateau that are already working, that if you do more of, they will actually create the biggest opportunity. And when I say opportunity, I mean, they allow you to do the work in the world that you really want to do. And when you're doing that on a bigger scale, the money always follows. And so that has become a huge passion of mine. I do really want to support people to be making the money they want to make, get out of this place where they're in money scarcity, but do that where they're in alignment. And I think it's possible to do that without wearing yourself out as well. So that sort of brought me to where I am right now.
Yeah, that's amazing. You mentioned strategies and tactics that you felt were missing from people's businesses. Can you talk a little bit about that? What those were?
Yeah, sure. So I think I'll just speak for myself and many of my clients. We sort of come from this hustle mentality, and we don't even necessarily know that we're doing it. We're not going in and saying, hey, I feel like hustling today. But we end up thinking that the more that we add into our businesses, the more impact we will have and the more money that we will make. So some of the strategies that we employ when I work with people are really dialing in to that customer journey. Like, where are people coming from? What are they doing when they come into contact with your business? How do you want them to feel? What are the things that are important? And what in that customer journey or even in your offer suite is actually working the best? And then I hate to say, almost like subtracting all the other stuff. As established business owners, we have a lot of things going on. So you can't just like stop doing all the things. But there's a lot of it that you can dial down and really put your intention and focus on one or two things. And we love 90-day plans. So we work in that 90-day plan, sort of a mentality where we help people flesh that out. And then we put the strategies and tactics in place to get you from where you are to where you want to be in those 90 days. And a big part of the mindset shift, that intangible piece, is just helping people stay on course for that. I mean, there's a lot of times where we're like, no, it's not on the plan. Let's go back over here, in a loving way, because we've all been there. But it's helping people stick to what they really want and then using their best opportunities to make that happen.
I know that a big part of your work is offers, and I'm kind of like, I've kind of got two questions, but the first is kind of like, what differentiates kind of a blah, so gonna get lost in the crowd offer from something that really like stands out? I'm kind of curious your perspective on that.
Yeah, that's a great question, Richard. So I think the thing that really differentiates in my world, this hell yes offer, which I call it, and I use those words really intentionally, because we all know when we have a hell yes moment, we're like, oh my gosh, hell yes, I want that thing. I need that. It's speaking to me. There's really three components to a hell yes offer. The first component is it calls in your exact client. It is the offer that's speaking to that problem that that client has in a way that cuts through all that noise. It is not general. It is literally built so it is made for them. The second piece is it gives a unique and compelling solution. I don't know about you, but a lot of offers I come against, they're just not that exciting. Like, yeah, they can give me that thing, but it's not what I really want. It's not compelling to the point that it's getting it out of you, getting you out of your seat. So it combines a compelling solution for that specific problem. And then the third piece, which I think is actually the most important piece, is it is hell yes for you. A lot of entrepreneurs, I think we have this idea when we start our businesses, we kind of look out into the marketplace and we're like, oh, what do people want to buy? Oh, there's that thing. Maybe I can sell it. Yeah, I'll do that. But I think actually hell yes offers are created the other way around. Like, what is hell yes for you? What really lights you up as a business owner? What's the problem you desperately want to solve for people that gets you out of their chair? And then you go and you craft your offer around that. And then you go find your people, or even better, when it's optimized for hell yes, they find you because they want it. It sells people on that result before you ever even talk to them. So I think starting with that energetic piece, that intention of, I really care about this. This is hell yes for me. How do I put together something in service of others that's really going to solve this problem that I'm like in a tizzy about talking about all day long? And it just works like a magnet, because it becomes so, what I like to call like binge worthy for people. And it's very different than just all the other things that you see out in the marketplace.
I guess the follow up is, one of the, I'm sure you hear this a lot with your clients, but a lot of clients are just like, it's already been done. This person's been doing it. That person's been doing it. And so I think it's probably built into how you design and name your offer and creating the hell yes offer. But I'm kind of just curious, when somebody says it's been done or whatever, how do you get them to see their own, worth and get them, excited and over that hump so that they can see that there is people that want to work with them in particular?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think there's a difference between a new offer, a new hell yes offer, and an offer that's out there that's working, that you have sort of the data to suggest that it's converting and doing the things that you want to do. If it's someone that has an existing offer, what I usually do is I go back to that client journey and we really look at how we're optimizing it, because essentially you have proof of concept. And a lot of times the things that are dragging people down in that way is some piece of how that offer is put together. And I even think of the client journey as part of the offer. All those things need to fit together. So that lead magnet or whatever it is that's bringing people to that offer. And then what happens when they're there? And are you catching them if they, aren't, buying the offer? Things like that that are more logistical to help bring the momentum back to that offer and optimize it. Because chances are, if it is hell yes for people, at one time they were excited about it, and somewhere along that journey, it's just broken, for lack of a better word. And it just needs to be tightened up. And those tiny tweaks for an existing business, especially someone who's in a multiple sort of six-figure situation, you move the needle 10% for people, and it's a significant move. You're impacting so many more lives and you're making so much more money. If it's somebody that is looking at a new offer and trying to create a hell yes offer, the best thing that I have them do is to start with them. Start with that energy. Why do you want to do this? Why is this important? Why does this person need your help? For example, there are a million, business coaching programs out there, right? Someone could argue like, hey, there's been a million business groups, and why would I just have another one? But the truth is, the way you define the problem, the way that you define the solution is your IP. And that is very different than someone else. Someone coming in and working with me in a business program is going to be very different than someone who's working with, Gabby Bernstein, right? It's a different vibe, even though we might be helping people with a result that they want that's the same, but the experience is totally different. And people buy the energy. They really do. I always joke it's like shoe sale energy. When you get in that place where you're like, oh, my favorite shoes are on sale. And full disclosure, I love shoes and handbags. So when that person puts that, ad in my email, I'm like, let's go. But it's so different than a different brand. But you could argue it's like the same, right? They're all handbags kind of a thing. But they're not. It's about who we want to become at the end and what we want to create at the end. And how are you uniquely going to help people do that? And I think it starts with dialing into all of that internal desire and energy. And then the logistical putting the pieces together becomes really a formula in a lot of ways, depending on what it is you want to create. But it really starts with you and your energy.
I love that. Yeah, there's so much value in what you just shared. I was on the phone with a guy yesterday, and he started 10 or so years ago, he started a edible landscape company, and he was so excited about it and he was so passionate about it. And he got all the tools and the team and everything all together. And then he found that nobody actually wanted it. And so he had to go back to regular landscaping. And so I'm wondering, you're talking about offers and you're talking about proof of concept and things like that. How do you help people kind of know ahead of time that there is going to be proof of concept?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I am a I push this point all the time. There is no magic wand. So someone cannot come to me and say, hey, I have this awesome offer and I want to sell it. Is it going to be amazing? The answer is, I have no idea. And I tell people this all the time. If you go to a coach and they're like, this is awesome, it's your next $1 million idea, you need to run in the other direction because nobody knows. So it really is all about market testing in a way that feels good. And I say market testing with very loose, edges, because people freak out about, market research. What I mean by that is you want to build this offer and you want to get it out in front of your target market and you want to see what happens. the kind of boring part I would say about being an entrepreneur is the data, like collecting the data, because it gives you so much information, but yet people think it's really not that sexy. They want to do all the things. But what you can see with people's behaviors is what gives you the clues to the next piece. So we put that offer together and we come up with a plan on how you're going to test it, essentially do market research on it. Again, if you're somebody that's totally new and you're just coming out and it's a new offer, then you're going to want to likely do that more organically, because it's the most beneficial to leverage your existing network and the people that you know in the target market to get that in front of, versus going and running like a bunch of Facebook ads where you don't have the cash flow and you don't have an offer that's proven. So now you're running a lot of ads to something that may or may not convert. So I always tell people, we come up with a very specific plan, like here are the people that we're going to target, here's where we're going to put this out there, and we're going to go and we're going to run it and we're going to collect the data. Because at the end of the day, the more offers you make to the right person, right, the more conversions you'll get. So part of this is, how do you find your right people and then get this offer in front of those right people? For people who are in a position where they have an existing audience, they have a big email list, they have a social media following, then you have a captive market, and you'll know whether or not that's your target market, again, because you're more established. And hopefully if you're adding something in, you're not starting a whole new marketplace. If you are, then you basically have to start like the person that hasn't done it before. But you're going to go in and now introduce it into that marketplace, and you're going to test it with now a bigger number of people. And then you can collect the data and you tweak. There are times, I'll be completely transparent, where I've launched something and crickets, like nobody wants this thing. I thought it was awesome. I remember thinking about doing a coaching program where a lot of people in my audience also are runners like I am, and they like to work out. And I was like, oh, I should do an offer where it's like 10 minutes a day where you can get some like kind of laser coaching, but you have to be moving. You have to be like on a treadmill, you have to be, walking or whatever. 0 people wanted that offer. I tried all the things and it just, but it didn't go anywhere. So it was one of those moments where I was like, this is going to be amazing, but really it wasn't. So I think you have to test it and you have to collect the data. And if it's something you really, really want to do, you have to stay the course, because it's not a slam dunk. But you want to be mindful that you're not shoveling all of this money and all of this, resource into something that doesn't have some sort of proof of concept from the beginning.
Yeah, that's a super funny story. I would sign up for the movement.
I thought so too.
I have a under the desk treadmill in Spain where I spend some time, but I actually have one here in Maine too, but it's leaned against the wall instead of underneath my desk right now.
I'll let you know if I do the offer again.
It's good. It's useful in the winter in Maine. In the summer in Maine, you should be outdoors walking around and breathing fresh air. Early on, because we've been in this business for a while. Early on, I kind of figured out that there was definitely something where people were chasing the next, creating and trying to sell the next offer versus optimizing their own offers. And then also, linking offers together so that there was some kind of model to kind of help people give deeper transformation, like customer life. Could you share a little bit? I know one of your geniuses is actually helping people scale their business and figure out how they can do that and finding kind of the right leverage point. Like, what's your perspective on that? What's your unique idea there, or how do you help people there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I am a big fan with sort of stacking, but doing it from a way where you hit your goals and then you add on. So to your point, a lot of people want to hook a bunch of offers together. They want to do it all. They're adding it all in, and it becomes extremely complicated. And if it's not optimized for the customer, now they're confused in a variety of different areas because they're bombarded with all these things, which happens. We tend to do that sometimes. So my approach is, as I mentioned, we want to find the best opportunity for you in your business. We don't want to find all of them. We want to find the best one. We start with that one. And when we optimize that offer, and as I mentioned earlier, when I say offer, I mean all the pieces of the client journey that are connected to that offer. So what is happening before they buy it? What are they doing when they're there? What happens to your clients after they've bought? Or if they didn't bought and they dropped, what are you doing with them? So when you start to optimize that client journey, even for just one offer, the amount of growth and streamlining and optimization you see in your business is huge. And if we take that one sort of client journey and we tie it to the goal that you have, so maybe it's a revenue goal or it's a certain target of customers in whatever capacity, when we tie it to that and we manage to that number, once we get there, it becomes very clear the other things you can stack on. Because you're like, oh, in that journey, I have been losing people over here, or there's this segment of people that need this thing that I can then add on. And what you're really doing is you're bringing more people into your business through essentially an optimized customer journey and funnel. You have those people where you can figure out what offers you need to have those clients then buy more, which by the way is so much easier than trying to get cold traffic to buy. So now you're stacking offers in a way that your hot market, right, will buy them. And then you're increasing the lifetime value of that client because it's so tight that you know exactly what you need to do to keep them for longer. And it makes your whole business run so much more easily. So that's the way that I approach it versus kind of trying to figure the stack out beforehand and adding all these things in at the same time. Once you optimize, you see the gaps so clearly. And we usually do that customer journey exercise in the beginning. And I'll tell you, I've gone through this for myself. I put myself through my own offers and you're like, oh yeah, I've been meaning to do that thing. They're all there, but like everything, it's your own business. So it's hard to see that. But the result is so much more of an impact, more money, more clients, and a hell of a lot less work. It's amazing how many things you dial down to create so much more space and sanity and time in your business when you do it that way.
Yeah, I love all that. We talk about ascension models, and actually Richard talks about descension models, which is kind of starting at the top and working down. And you did dig in a little bit to that about that when you talked about stacking offers. Can you be even more specific or deep dive a little bit more? I know you talked about the customer journey, but how do you get people to want to continue to work with you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So sometimes it could be something as simple as like a reactivation campaign. You know, when was the last time you kind of went back into that list or that audience and just revitalized it? You know, what is something that you can even package in a certain way where you're not creating a bunch of different offers, you're just creating something that's fresh that you can put in front of people. That's not going to be a really heavy lift. Some of the other things that we're seeing come out with, you know, different mediums like AI and some of the tech is, you know, people are now much more open and receptive to SMS modeling and SMS texting. So how can you reach people in different ways with different automations and campaigns that just gets them to purchase more of your things or love you even more? Total side story, Kylie, you might be able to relate to this, but I have recently come in contact with Victoria Beckham makeup. I'm not a huge makeup person, but I've become more of an eye makeup person. So anyway, I fell in love with Victoria Beckham makeup. And she has really fine-tuned this model of being able to touch her customers in all these different ways. And so it was all about the Kajal eyeliner. And I'm getting now the text that says, hey, the new color, and click here to see how I do this, how I put it on myself. It connects to her reels on her social media platform. So she's essentially taken one asset, she's pulling it through these different automated campaigns. It's pretty much costing her nothing to do this because she's just leveraging the same information, but she's accessing her customers in a way. If I go to that site and fall in love with all the eyeliners and I'm like, yes, yes, yes. And then my 6-year-old comes in and derails me and the cart is sitting over there. I mean, I literally get, hey, did you forget about your Kajal eyeliner in the cart? And there's a link to the cart, you know, in the SMS. So even some very basic types of automations like that can really help pull that customer through. And again, we're talking about eyeliners here. So it obviously has to be tweaked to your brand so it feels authentic. But reactivation, some of the segmenting of those lists on the back end, really thinking about how you intentionally love on and leverage the people who are already in your business. And I think that's one of the biggest areas of opportunity I've seen with people, is that we put all this effort on inbound. We're pulling all these people in. And then when they come into our world, this part back here is blue ocean for many of us. We're not touching them. And I see this when I go to salons, even to therapists and a lot of service-based businesses, the dentist, that's another example. They'll remind you that you have an appointment, but they're not putting things in front of you that are going to help solve the problem that you have today, or even help you understand you've got that problem. Like, oh, summer's coming, you're going to be smiling for all the pictures. Do you want to have the teeth whitening thing? You know what I mean? Right? Those kind of things, which when it comes to meeting your customers' needs and having them stay with you, and it's a one-stop shop for that, it's really powerful. So depending on the business, we're very customized in how we think about those campaigns, but reactivating your list, targeting people in a certain segment, making sure that you're reaching them through different modalities that are much more likely to open. Text is huge right now as far as the percentage of people, like 90% of people open their texts, things like that. And doing it in an intentional way, so the only things you're sending people are valuable, I think it goes a really long way.
Can you share a little bit? I know it sounds like you're shifting toward working with larger companies and larger entrepreneurs. Do I have that correct? Or
it's more established businesses. They're not necessarily large companies. They're still small businesses, but they have more of an established offer.
I see. Okay. And I guess my question is kind of related around teams. And I know you help people figure that piece out a little bit. And, it's kind of interesting because sometimes the smaller entrepreneur creators like, I don't want to do any of the marketing, just find somebody to do it all for me, and normally, as an agency, I'm like, yeah, that doesn't work very well if you're your own brand, especially.
Mm-hmm.
And then, on the other side is the corporate who tends to have teams, but often in some ways it's the same thing. It's pulling and actually adding more values and personality and people into the marketing. I'm kind of curious, when you're working with maybe people that are building their own businesses up and maybe on the smaller scale, how do you advise them to work with marketing professionals in either hiring or outsourcing the work that they do?
Yeah. So this is where I think optimizing the offer and getting really clear is so crucial, because it will inform all of the work streams that you need, and it will inform exactly who you need to hire. I think one of the things, especially as you mentioned, Richard, with people who are not necessarily like tech marketing savvy, or they don't want to get into that because it's just like not their thing. They don't have a sense of what can be automated, what is actually necessary for the growth that they want. Once you can help somebody figure that piece out, then they know who they need to hire and for what. So for example, if we are looking at a customer journey, it's got one offer, it's, largely driven by a lead magnet that brings people in, they can buy it. It's a lower ticket offer where they're not needing to have calls and all these things. For them to then automate some of that marketing, so it's, an email sequence and, a lead magnet, and they're going to come in and buy the thing on the back end and it's no problem. They might need an EA to help with some of that, or they might need some, a meaningful amount of marketing spend to help that go, like creating those assets, but they don't need a marketing team to make that happen. You know what I'm saying? So I think once it becomes clear what those pieces are, then you know who you need. Do you need somebody to create these assets? Is it an asset that you can create once? Maybe they have the skills to do that. They can create it. And then what they're needing is to hire someone just to keep the thing that's working to continue to go. You really get a lot of insight into your hires after you've optimized the thing. I think what people often do is they hire because they think they need it. They're not exactly clear on what it is they want to do or where they want to go. And then you end up having a bunch of spend on people that you may not actually need. And sometimes you can get a lot of what you need if you find that one right person that can do a variety of those things. again, if it's super sophisticated, then you want to have an expert and maybe you hire that person for X amount of hours, but you'll have a lot more of a sense of what that looks like. So for me personally, I am a not quick to hire person. Like hire slowly, fire quickly. It has been something I've struggled with my whole entrepreneurial career. I used to be the other way around. And I think when you do that and you have clarity, you can make some really good decisions and get exactly what you need versus just kind of grabbing people because you think that's going to be the silver bullet when it's actually not. That clarity and optimization comes first, and then you'll know who you need and for what.
Wow, this has been a super valuable interview. I feel like you're really putting some pieces together. And I know you talked about optimization and efficiency, and our people do not want burnout. Like they're super passionate and dedicated to what they're doing, but they don't want this to become their whole entire life. So I love that you touched upon some of that stuff. Do you have any final words of wisdom for people who really want to create these magnetic offers that are really going to transform lives and be lucrative that we haven't talked about so far?
I would just reiterate, start with what you're passionate about and don't overcomplicate it. You can really create a thriving business where you have space and time and energy doing a few things really, really well and talking to your people and having all that time to go out and do all the other stuff that you really want to do in the world. So
I love the simplicity of that final message there. So it's very wise. And I think all of us that have been around in the digital space have kind of, we've worn ourselves out a few times. You kind of have to do it a few times and then you learn and then you see other people do it and you're like, just simplify, just do this one thing and just do that really well. And then find more people who just need that one thing, So there's a lot of wisdom. If you're listening to this, make it simple. It'll make your life a lot easier. So thank you so much, Jessica, for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure. And if people want to find out more about you, I know you have a website, Jessica Miller Coaching. Should they go there? Yeah. Is that the place?
That's the best place. And I'm on all the social channels too with the same handles.
Okay, great. And you do like one-on-one and group and some different, have different offers there. Is that right?
Yes, I do one-on-one consulting. I have VIP days and we do some luxury retreats that also focus in on the same targets, the customer journeys and things like that. So variety of different ways.
All right, great. Thank you. Well, thanks, Jessica, for being here today. And thanks all the listeners for showing up and listening to the Conscious Marketer podcast. We don't run ads. The one thing we do ask is you can leave a review or share it with somebody that helps us spread the word and make a bigger impact in the world. If you want the show notes and all the links to Jessica's sites, you can also go to consciousmarketer.com/podcasts. And that's our site. And you can also sign up for our newsletter there. Thanks again, Jessica, for being here today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yep. And thanks, Kylie, for being here as well and helping with this interview. It's been awesome.
Yeah. Bye. Take care, everybody. See you on the next episode.